Those of you everydayers here at Locked On Aggies know that I'm a huge Conner Weigman believer. But let's make the case for the other quarterbacks.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on in to Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that have been listening to the show for a while know that I am pro Conner Weigman. I think he has a very, very bright future in front of him when it comes to quarterback in the Aggies, and I still think he has an NFL future in front of him after that. But every time I talk about Conner Weigman, I always get a handful of comments saying, Andrew, listen, what about Marcel Reed? What about Jaylen Henderson? What about those guys? I think you're a little too all in on Conner Weigman. Okay, perhaps. So let's do it. Let's make the case for those two guys to win the job this year. Want to make it known that, like I said, I am still a believer that Conner Weigman will be the guy next year. But let's make the case for the other two guys. So let's start with Marcel Reed. What he did in the bowl game against Oklahoma State, what it showed was grit and just this, I am not afraid to go in here and make something happen. Jaylen Henderson, it's funny, heading into that ball game, I talked about, hey, this is Jaylen Henderson's opportunity. This is his shot to say, consider me for this shot. I'm going to go and put up a whole bunch of yards and play great against Oklahoma State. And Conner, love you, buddy, but listen, I'm coming for that job. That was Jaylen Henderson's opportunity. And you do hate it for the young man. Gets hurt on the first play of the game, makes an incredible play to make a couple guys miss and get the ball to an open player for a gain of first down yardage, and then gets hurt. It comes down, kind of gets his legs taken out from under him, comes down on his arm, has a fracture. He got that dealt with, got that cleaned up. He'll be out. It won't affect him long term, but it's a not a big deal, but it's getting fixed. But point is, Marcel Reed, hey dude, true freshman, buddy, go get in there. Second play of the game, figure it out. Here we go. Come on. And he moved the offense. When Marcel Reed was forced into that game, I'm just going to be really honest. I kind of was quick to go, oh, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. Marcel Reed's got a bright future ahead of him, no question. But is he ready to go here in this spot? Is he ready to go? He's been kind of the fourth string guy all year with Wiggs, and then he goes down. Max Johnson goes down. Then you got Henderson goes down. You're up. Your number's getting called. And he balled out. My knock on Marcel Reed, and we all saw the high school film. We all saw that. But what is can he be an accurate passer in college? I knew what he could do with his legs. We all did. We all knew what he could do with his legs. But could he do it with his arm? And then he comes out and puts on a clinic through the air. So, my thoughts on Marcel Reed, I think that, if I had to rank the quarterbacks based on my excitement, I'm still going Conner 1. Like I said, I can't go away from my take on this, but I want to make the other side of the argument. So I'm still going to go Conner 1, but I do think Marcel right now, based on what he did in that game, is just a hair. For me, this is me, a hair ahead of Jaylen Henderson for that number 2 spot. I just think that his legs are equal or better than Henderson's, and his arm is equal or better. And I think you could lean, you know what I mean, a little bit. And once again, we're going to make the case for Henderson, and I want to talk about how great Henderson was. I mean, Henderson balled out during his time as a starter. But I just thought what Marcel Reed did in that bowl game was so encouraging for the future. Here's the deal. Here's the deal. If Conner Weigman comes out this year, does win the job, and has an incredible season, he's a guy who's top 10 in Heisman voting. He can go pro. He can. This could be his last year here if he puts together a monster year like I kind of think he's going to. This could be his last year to where, hey, one of those two quarterbacks, you're up next, So, but I think Marcel Reed is the number 2 guy for me. I just think that, he proved this. I am not afraid. I'm not afraid to go in and make some magic happen. He proved that against Oklahoma State, and he looked great doing it. Arm talent, ability to use his legs. There were a few passes where you went, what's going on here? What are we doing here? And there were some passes where you're like, oh my goodness, he looked incredible. So that's my case for Marcel Reed. I think that, his legs are better than Conner's. I think. Now, Conner's an athletic quarterback. I think, people don't forget Conner can move a little bit, but he can't move like Marcel can. Now, arm talent, I'm giving the edge. Right now to Conner, but I think it is much more of a narrow gap than I thought, of course, before having seen Marcel play. So that's where I'm at with Marcel. When it comes to Jaylen Henderson, Jaylen Henderson is a really good quarterback. And I think he shows a lot of the grittiness. I mean, I talked about it when he came over from Fresno State. I didn't know what we had in this guy. There wasn't much tape. He hadn't played a lot. I looked at, and I'm like, okay, here's a quarterback. And when he first came over, Jimbo was like, yeah, he's a future piece. He's not really in the cards for this year. So we're like, is this guy any good? What's the deal with this guy? We didn't know anything. I mean, we knew nothing about Jaylen Henderson. Even when he came in, I'm like, okay, well, we're going to find out. And he was incredible. Same thing as Marcel. I mean, he made some incredible throws, and he looked really good running the football. I just think that those two details, arm talent and ability to run the football, I'm giving a slight edge there to Marcel Reed. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to have this conversation because, like I said, I know I see the comments, which I appreciate. Y'all are saying, Andrew, come on, man, you're all in on Conner Weigman. Let's talk about these other guys a little bit. So let me know in the comments how we feel about this. I've got a lot. I have, I'd say it's about 50-50. A lot of people, Andrew, I'm with you. Weigman's the guy, and Weigman we trust, And then there's people saying, come on, there's gonna be competition. Let's see how this plays out. So let me know in the comments, ladies and gentlemen, how we feel about this race. I mean, this is going to be a topic. Listen, there's going to be a competition. This is new staff. This is a new offensive coordinator. This is not going to be, okay, Conner, it's your job. It's your job. It's all you. Go for it. There's going to be a competition for this starting job. So do Marcel Reed and Jaylen Henderson give Conner Weigman more of a run for his money than I'm expecting? I think you could see this get a little interesting. So I do feel that way. But with Henderson, I just think, like I said, I think he is a great thrower of the football. I think he's an accurate passer. I think he did a lot more well than he did wrong during his handful of games starting for the Aggies. And he looked good running the football. He was incredible at escaping the pocket, finding a receiver, escaping the pocket using his legs. He just did so much well. And listen, Texas A&M is going to be a spot. Let's say Weigman does win the job, okay? If Reed gets put in the football game, if Henderson gets put in the football game, I'm not going to be upset. And we talked about that last year. If Weigman goes down, Max Johnson's a heck of a backup quarterback, one of the best in the SEC. It is a really nice thing to have. And what happened? Weigman went down, and Max Johnson plays some good football. You're going to have that again this year with those two quarterbacks, assuming Weigman is the guy. Or, hey, if it is Marcel Reed, if it is Henderson, You're going to have that, and Conner Weigman as a backup. I think Weigman starts for Texas A&M next season, but I think this battle is going to be closer than I was giving it credit for a couple weeks ago, and I think that these two guys are really going to give Weigman a run for his money for this starting job. So please let me know y'all's thoughts on that in the YouTube comments. I'm really curious to hear people's thoughts. How do we feel about the flip side of this argument? Are y'all riding with Conner Weigman? Do you think these other two guys are going to be in this race? Let me know in the YouTube comments. I am very curious to hear y'all's thoughts. We're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to learn early into the Mike Elko tenure that I think is going to be somewhat telling for the future. And we'll talk about what that is coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, I got to tell you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or die every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I also want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the one move I could make that'll take my small business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows that your success all depends on the team you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. I love LinkedIn. I talk about it all the time, how it's a tool I've used to hire. I've had friends get jobs with LinkedIn. I love how simple and easily it connects employers with employees and employees with an open spot at a company. LinkedIn Jobs is the best place to post your job or to go find a job. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think what we've talked about being the difference between a Mike Elko team and a Jimbo Fisher team is one thing. Listen, we're going to sit here and we're going to knock Jimbo, and we are. I mean, he did not, he wasn't great. He got paid a lot of money. He's getting paid a lot of money to not be here. But, wish the guy the best of luck. But what I'll tell you about the Mike Elko, I think he's building a culture. And this is what we're going to learn, ladies and gentlemen. It's plain and simple. We're going to learn this really quick. We're going to learn about player development. Now, you're going to say, Andrew, we don't have to learn all that stuff. I mean, we don't have to. Not everything has to be decided this year. And you're right. If there are some players that we want to see develop this offseason and maybe they don't quite take a step like we thought, the world isn't going to end. We're not going to go, get rid of Mike Elko. He's awful. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, coaching is two things. It's development and it is being able to look at a player and scouting and development. That's the word that I want to use. So I think that, when you look at this, when you look at the type of player or the type of coach that Mike Elko is, I think that you're going to quickly learn about the development that he has. And a lot of it's going to be via the portal. During this portal period, we're going to learn a lot about were these guys swings and misses. Now, at the end of the day, it's not every portal edition is going to be a home run. You're going to go get some guys that are going to be great. And then you're going to get some guys that you're going to go, well, okay, that guy didn't really do anything. It's all going to happen for Coach Elko and this staff. Not every player you're going to recruit is going to be a home run. But while not every player is going to be a home run, you also want to be able to look back. Let me explain this way. You're going to look back, and if you look back at last year's portal class, you're going to go, man, that wasn't all that great in reference to last year, as in last season. The goal is, except for players, obviously there were a few. Jaylen Henderson was great. I'm not saying everybody. Johnny Walker's great, but I'm saying, some of these players we thought were going to be great, like in the secondary, weren't as good as we kind of thought. So what I'm getting at here is this. I want to be able to look back on this transfer portal class and go, man, Coach Elko hit that out of the ballpark. That guy, we thought he was going to be good. He was good. I'm tired of, man, Josh DeBerry, he wasn't great. Tony Grimes, we never saw him on the field. Like, I'm tired of that. I don't want to look back on all these players that we're excited about heading into next season and go, man, that was a swing and a miss. He wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be. What happened to that guy? I don't want to look back on this year's transfer portal class and have to say that to myself. So now, you got like 23, 24 guys in the portal class right now. Not every single one of those guys is going to be a home run. That's what I'm getting at here. But if 60% of them were great players and lived up to it, I'd be very excited. And you're going to learn about development. So that's kind of the scouting. I don't as much count the scouting for the recruiting class, except for the guys that Coach Elko went and got late in the class. He went and got about 2 or 3 guys flips late in the class. Those guys, Coach Elko went out and said, I need that guy. I want that guy. Now, how long do you have to recruit those guys? So what I'm saying is, scouting wise, when it comes to this recruiting class, I'm not going to be as hung up as I would be for, the year after that's class. But so I think that what we're going to learn from this recruiting class is the development factor. Can he bring those guys in and develop these guys, make these guys better to take a step immediately after walking on campus? And then when it comes to just the portal, that's where you can learn about, because all the coaches have the same amount of time in the portal. You watch tape, you watch film. Okay, we need this guy. We need this guy. Now, with a player like Nick Scorton, it's not hard to watch the tape and go, that guy's pretty good. We should go get him. But then like a Donovan Saunders, a smaller school player, those are the type of evaluations that matter. Like if you go get a player like that, now he's a highly ranked guy out of the portal. A lot of people wanted him, but that's where it comes to scouting. Is this guy going to be good in the SEC? Coaches need to be able to look at tape and scout and figure that out. So we're going to learn a little bit about Mike Elko and his ability to develop, his ability to scout, thanks to this portal class. And then I think thanks to next year's recruiting class. Is this all the end of the world? No, I'm not saying that every player that's committed in the portal right now to Texas A&M is going to be a star. That's just not reality. That's just not what's going to happen. But if enough of them are good that you look back on this portal class and you go, man, there was a ton of talent in this class. This was an incredible, really good recruiting class that led to a lot of sacks and receiving yards and touchdowns and rushing yards and interceptions. That is what I want to see. So I'm not saying that we're going to leave this season upset at Coach Elko if we don't feel great. But what I am saying is I'll feel really good about his ability to develop if a lot of these players in the transfer portal end up panning out and end up being good football players like we expect them to be. And then, and then in next year's recruiting class, I think that's when you're going to see his scouting. So we're going to learn a lot about his ability to scout and develop early on into Coach Elko's Texas A&M tenure. And if it doesn't go exactly how we kind of hoped, it's not the end of the world. It's not something to be, upset about, as I feel pretty confident that Coach Elko is going to be just fine when it comes to developing talent. It sounds like Texas A&M might be getting a secondary player back that it looked like was going to find a new home. We'll talk about who that is and what that means and a few more things before we call it a day coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But I got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet. Live same-game parlays. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. The FanDuel app is easy to use. It's fun to use. There is no better way to wager on sporting events than FanDuel. I use FanDuel. It's a ton of fun, ladies and gentlemen. It enhances the game. It enhances the NFL playoffs. Just a ton of fun. You got to go check it out. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. So this is not confirmed yet. I want to add that caveat. I could, I'm putting this episode up the second I finish recording. We could find out 20 minutes later that this was just a rumor. It's not true, but there are some rumors that Tariq Chappelle might be coming back for another season at Texas A&M. His dad said some things. I had some folks comment that yesterday. I hadn't heard about it really. So this is not confirmed yet. But if that is true, and like I said, this could come out 5 minutes later that this isn't true. And if that happens, I'll let y'all know in the comments. I'll keep y'all up to date as I am. But Tariq Chappelle, it sounds like he might stay at Texas A&M. And I'll tell you, it's interesting. What his role looks like, it's going to be interesting. With all of the additions that you've made via the portal, I'll tell you, does he walk right back into a starting role? It'll be interesting. It will be interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Now, he is a player, of course, who you could argue heading into the season was Texas A&M's, the player in the secondary we were, most excited about, with up there with Bryce Anderson. And, Tariq Chappelle was supposed to have a good year. I don't think that all of the secondary issues were his fault. Well, they weren't. I mean, we know that. I think Josh DeBerry, not trying to knock him, but was the guy getting burned more times than not. But Tariq Chappelle had his fair share of mistakes, but he also did a lot well. So I look at this and I go, if he comes back, all you're getting is one more player that has proven he can play in the SEC, has proven he can play at Texas A&M. I think that it, of course, never hurts. I talk about all the time. Sometimes the most significant additions to your roster are the players you thought you were going to lose that decided to come back. That happened with Chase Pasantis. Perhaps you could see that happen with Tariq Chappelle. And if this gets confirmed today, I'll let y'all know in the YouTube comments, or if we find out it ain't happening, I'll same thing. I'll let you know in the YouTube comments. But I think, to me, does he start? Does he play a massive role? I don't know. I mean, listen, you've brought in a ton of corners. You got some guys coming in the recruiting class. You got players coming in Saunders and in Will the Blanket Lee, and then Ricks, who we just talked about from Bama. I mean, you got a lot of players coming in the secondary. So, it ain't going to be like last year. Tariq Chappelle, if he does end up winning the job, he won the job over some talented players. I'm excited to see, a little bit of development from the new secondary coach and Coach Elko being back. I think that you can see Tariq Chappelle take a step forward, but having him back would be very significant for this Texas A&M football team. I'm excited to see what this secondary looks like if this news does end up being true. I mean, we know who Tariq Chappelle is as a player. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really excited to see what this looks like. And I want to have one more, so that's exciting, and I'll keep y'all updated on that in the YouTube comments. But I want to have a quick conversation, and it's going to lead to a more significant conversation in the future. But I wanted to have just a 1 minute talk about it, because I want to hear y'all's thoughts in the YouTube comments about this. But, I kind of had a thought, and it's like, and then we'll learn about it a little bit this year, but do we trust, because we just got done talking about talent evaluation, scouting, development, all that. when it comes to Coach Elko and how important that is, and we'll learn about that this season. But would we be okay taking a bit of a drop off in high school recruiting? And when I say that, I mean, sometimes coaches look at a 5-star and then they'll look at the number 47 player in the class and then look at the number 122 player in the class and go, I like the kid ranked 122nd better than the kid ranked 47th or whatever. I think that scouting, the ability to look at that talent and go, I like this guy better than this guy. That's a real thing. It is a real thing. And it does. I'm not saying, oh, darn you, Jimbo, you just took the best players. I'm not saying that. Obviously, that is great. But at the end of the day, we've learned at Texas A&M that stars are not everything. Stars are not everything. So could Mike Elko kind of take a different, I'm not saying he's not going to go after top 10 recruits, but I'm saying if we see that Coach Elko is after a top 30 player, top 30 player in the class at running back and the number 132 player in the class at running back, and both of them are there for a visit, and you get the player 132 to commit over the top 30 player. If Coach Elko saw something, I trust him. I trust his so far so good, but I trust his ability. I mean, because we've had him at Texas A&M before. I trust his ability to develop and to scout. So, would we be okay with that? Would we be okay with trusting Coach Elko to make the right calls on the recruiting trail rather than just taking the highly ranked 5-star guys? I think I'd be okay with that. I mean, we've learned over these last few years that stars aren't at everything. It's about the fight and the dog, not the dog in the fight. You know what I mean? You don't need these 5-star top ranked guys. Sometimes when you can get a player, a 4-star, 3-star, that's going to end up being better. So I trust in Coach Elko to develop and to scout and to recruit the best players to fit his system and his culture. So let me know y'all's thoughts on that. And we'll have a more significant conversation on that down the road. But I wanted to just have a quick 1-minute talk about that and get y'all's thoughts. But that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much to you everydayers. Thanks for being here, listening. I've had just a lot of great people commenting nice things in the comments, giving me some attaboys. And I just wanted to let y'all know that, like, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate y'all being here. It means everything to me that y'all are here listening to this show every single day, listening to me talk about Texas A&M. So thanks. I really appreciate y'all here in the comments every day, talking, listening. Thank y'all so very much. I hope everybody has a great rest of your Thursday, and we will see you on Friday.